Hey everybody, welcome to DBS Films Podcast. My name is Kellen. With me as always is my brother Brendan. Together we make movies with DBS Films. In today's episode, we're going into part 2 of our year review for 2022. So in the first episode, we basically made it all the way up to July. We gave you a breakdown of what happened in last year. And in this episode, we're going to basically finish out the rest of the year. So be sure to take a look at all of our stuff online. Take a look at our Discord channel, DBS Films. That is the place to be if you ever want to be in a movie, on set, behind the scenes. All of those things we cast and we look for directly from our Discord channel. So I think the first place I kind of want to start off is how we started the last episode, which is just mentioning that we really gained a ton of momentum for multiple reasons. A lot of it coming from the social channels, coming from developing the Discord and a lot of those things. But you just want to kind of start over again on how 2022 was really, in my opinion, the year that DBS Film finally solidified a foundation. I mean, I think it's more clear now than what we're ever doing, whether it was from working with a distributor for Girl in Cabin 13, whether it was developing our Discord channel, it was just you filming more movies. I think this was kind of the year where, it's becoming more increasingly clear the projection of this business.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we had the first movie to go through distribution. So that's going through quality control. That's seeing what the platforms you can get on. And that's also seeing what the platforms pay. With Girl in Cabin 13, we didn't really know how to proceed. We didn't know if we can get it through quality control. We didn't know what the platforms were actually going to pay. So for me to sit here and try and, budget and forecast out, I had no real idea. Now sitting with two movies completely through the distribution cycle, a third one that just got uploaded to the distribution, the quality control the other day, I have clarity. I know exactly how much money, these movies should bring in. And it allows me to project and, increase our budgets or decrease our budgets depending on, our goals in 2023. So it's just clarity. And I think in business, having that clarity is extremely valuable because now I'm making informed decisions as opposed to educated guesses. And I think with the first 8 movies, with how the market was at the time with Amazon, it was kind of hit or miss. Like some movies do really, really well and some would do really poorly. And it's very hard to have a foundation. It's very hard to make decisions when when your income is so drastically moving all over the place. So, 2022 is important because it was the foundation. Both Girl in Cabin 13 and Murder House had similar results. Murder House was much better, but as far as like the baseline and how the platforms performed, they did it's just much easier for me to make decisions moving forward. So I could take that data, I could extrapolate it to 2023, and it's just about scaling up now. I know what these movies can do. I know how to do it. We've been through quality control. We have way more connections in the distribution side of the business, and it's just about scaling up at this point. So I think 2022 was the year the foundation was laid, and now we're building 60 stories on the DBS penthouse.
Oh man, each movie is a story, so get ready, friends. No, I think it's a great thing to really look at. And one of the big things, that I had mentioned is there's a lot of stuff that happened this year that we never would have expected. The spark really was coming from the TikTok audience, which turned into the Discord audience, which caused this whole podcast, which causes YouTube. But now we have, this massive ecosystem that's basically developing. And I think, one thing that we mentioned in the past 2 episodes is you have to develop a brand nowadays. A filmmaker, we've talked about this multiple times. There's no such thing as making one movie and then you're good to go. You don't have to worry about making a movie or it's going to lead to the next movie. That is the typical path that a filmmaker still kind of has in their head. And I think what the best part about this is it's only going to get better. And we know this because of essentially how long we've been doing this for. So the movies, in our experience, is only getting better. And the Discord, we finally crossed 12,000 members in the Discord channel just yesterday. And it's going to allow us for more powerful launches and more powerful things. So real quick, just want to talk about how it becomes a compounding effect. And I think this is true in any businesses. I think any business owner will see that things start compounding and things get easier. Typically, your first client's your hardest, and then your second client's the second hardest. But then from there, it gets easier and easier. So do you want to talk about how as a filmmaker, this would be I think people would look at this year for us and say, wow, what a wildly successful year. You know, two films, two featured films. You got all of this, you developed all these followers and whatnot. But we understand that this is, you know, as we mentioned, this is the process that we've been doing since 2016. It's finally solidifying, it's finally paying off. But moving forward, it just makes everything easier. It makes it easier for us to cast, makes it easier for us to make a movie because we're better, it makes it easier for us to launch a movie. So do you want to talk about that compounding effect?
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe that if you do the right thing over and over again, you'll start to see results. And I think we're starting to see the fruits of the labor, the work that we've put in the past 5 years, start to come to fruition. And it started with the Discord, it started with TikTok, and with each release, and the releases are so critical because not only does it give us revenue, we get our money back, and it's not like I'm taking any of this money, I'm taking all of it and I'm putting it right back into, getting bigger and better production so we can get closer to the Netflix look or the Hulu look or the HBO look, and that all costs money. But before we even get there, I just want to have more actors involved in the process. I'd love to have a zombie movie. I mean, even with the Bigfoot movie, we're looking to cast more people, and I think that is, the goal is to get as many actors involved in the process as early on as possible. We have the actors in the Discord doing acting challenges and getting better each day. But unless you're live in front of that camera, unless you're actually, on set, doing these lines and working with a director and working on a high pressure set, those are like live game reps, and you need to have that. So we want to cultivate the community in the Discord, but we also want to make sure that people who, earn these roles are being able to be brought out and, are involved in this process. And, we talked about it earlier, it's a process of, starting slow. Usually most of the first time actors that we work with have very minimal dialogue, or they'll have smaller scenes, and we kind of, work them up until lead roles. Dylan was a lead role in one of our last movies. So that's the whole process we want to get going. And, we'll slowly bring on more and more people. But to get to that point, we need to have very successful launches. We need to purchase, this movie as quickly as possible, because distribution looks at that stuff and we get better placement, we get better deals. So it's all a cycle. We're very early in the cycle still. But like I said, the foundation is laid and everything is setting up to have a lot of movies next year and have a lot of actors involved in these movies. It's just, slow and steady. Every day we put in the work and we get our results.
Exactly. So let's pick up back to where we're putting in the work for this year. We're going to pick up in July, and July was actually a very busy month. I remember this one. This is just a crazy month in general. Summer season's usually a lot harder for me just with the other elements of work. But basically, this was the start of the Kickstarter and the release of The Haunting of the Murder House. So, I think one of the biggest things that we've always talked about is how slow you get your money back when it comes to the process, because you film a movie, you get the movie edited, you release the movie, you get the movie through distribution. A typical filmmaker, I would say, I heard just recently on a podcast that three years is kind of like a guideline apparently now for a movie. And again, 3 years, and you're going to wait another 6 months to get your money back. So being able to have the Murder House, which took a lot more in post, I think one of the biggest things was seeing how quickly we could get it up and live. And I think that was one of the bigger surprises, because we're in the middle of kind of getting the script ready, the auditions ready, all of these things ready. And then I just remember being like, oh, hey, Murder House is live on the 28th of July. So you want to talk about that process, how it can get bogged down, and more importantly, how nice it is when it's like, oh, wow, we're not really the slowest part of this element anymore.
Yeah, I mean, even when distribution gets your movie, it takes about a month for it to pass quality control. And then they'll set up a launch date, which is usually 3 months in the future, because you have to line up all those platforms. Apple TV, Tubi, Amazon, all have to go live on a specific date. And I just didn't want that. So in the last, when we worked with the last distribution company, I said, look, send it off to all the platforms. Whoever releases it first, that'll be the platform we go to, we use. And that was Amazon. And I think we passed quality control early July, I believe, because it was a little bit messed up with the holidays, but it was released in I think about 2 weeks. And these movies always release in the worst times. I remember I was like on a vacation trip in New Jersey at the time, and it was just like, oh, all of a sudden it's out. And I was like, oh my God, like I had to call Kel. I was like, all right, make sure this is going, because nobody expected it. I really thought it was going to come until the end of August. And I know exactly when the Shapeshifter is going to release. It's going to be in a February trip that we're going. Me and Kel are going to go. Is going to be when it's going to release. These things always release right when it's the worst possible time. So, yes, it was chaotic. And yes, I was, away from home base in Orlando, but I was excited to see how quickly we were able to get that out. And really, from engaging with the distribution company and getting the movie out was like less than a month, which is perfect for our timeline, because I just do not want to wait the 90 days, 120 days to get this out, because it's so difficult to recoup all your money, because you're waiting almost 6 months really to get your first paycheck. So I think that was a game changer. And immediately, we alerted the Discord, and the reviews started kicking in, the sales started kicking in. And I mean, you've heard me talk about it before. If I could have, 12 murder houses, the success of that one, we will be a very, very profitable business, and we'll be able to scale very, very quickly. That release was fantastic, and I'm hoping that is the foundation, and we can pivot from there. And Forest of Death is going to have a bigger release, and then Into the Forest 2.0 is going to have a bigger release. If we can get that momentum, and each one kind of builds on each other, and each time we bring in more actors, we bring in more Discord members, we cultivate more talent, I really think that's the flywheel that we want to really start moving heading into 2023.
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that. I've mentioned it before. We're going to look at putting back a lot of, the profits, in the sense that we're not taking any, putting it right back into scaling, getting more movies out there, learning more, getting bigger movies, getting more roles. So really, as it starts to turn, and a huge shout out again to everyone. I think the Discord at the time was like 5,000 people for the last launch, and now we're at 12,000. So anyone listening to this in the Discord, that means we have to do twice as good now. But I know the Discord itself is absolutely amazing, the people that we've cultivated there. So speaking of the Discord and how amazing we are, this is our first time going into the Kickstarter side of things. And we had wanted to basically explore Kickstarter. It's a very popular one of filmmakers. I think it's kind of been toning down a little bit over the years. I feel like it kind of pulled away. There was kind of like a heyday. So we wanted to take a look at it. And we always had in mind that, hey, we want to look at doing this as a way to get a lot of DBS merch. And as you can tell, if you're watching on YouTube, Brennan's wearing one of our t-shirts right there. Those who might have hoodies, sweatpants, all of those different things. We're still waiting on DVDs and Flash, but we'll get those taken care of. But we were able to basically start developing a lot more brand things, and it's just absolutely amazing seeing the level of support that we get from people. And I think I kind of want to go with two things here. One, what it's like to finally have people who are supporting us, not just by, okay, yeah, I'll watch your movie or maybe I'll review it, but they're like, how do I support DBS as a brand with this Kickstarter? I'm supporting this entire idea, this concept, all of these things, seeing that being adapted. And then the second thing from that is, now that we have this all adapted and whatnot, how much is it motivating you and me to just work so much harder, because now we have a group of people that we just cannot let down ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's super critical. I mean, we've never had this kind of engagement before. We've never had the support like this before. Most of the people who, purchased our stuff came through it through like a Facebook ad, or they liked indie horror. And yeah, we've had some people like stick around, and, watch most of our releases, but nothing on this scale. And I think the most valuable thing is, just that support. And the Kickstarter stuff was great because it allowed us to, create a lot of merchandise. And we still have a ton of merchandise. And I think that's important. None of the Kickstarter money went to anything other than a merch drop. So it was just basically how to reward you guys with some really cool stuff. And I think that's always going to be the vision of the company, is to how can we give back to the fans? How can we cultivate the fans? And you guys are giving us your time, you're watching our stuff, you're giving us feedback, and that is the most valuable thing you could possibly do. And I think that's even more valuable than any kind of monetary gain. Like I see all these other studios or indie filmmakers that are raising $100,000, and you don't really know where that money's going. And I think for us, the most valuable thing is for you guys to just continue to stick with us, continue to engage, be nice to everybody, and just really, you know, create like a really cool ecosystem of people who like indie horror. And if we can cultivate that kind of community, I think that's extremely valuable. And we're working extremely hard to get as many Discord members into these movies as possible, so that we can kind of grow together. And that's really the overall vision and philosophy of DBS's relationship with the Discord and our community. This is all the money or anything from the Kickstarters went straight to merchandise, went straight to you guys. And it's just really cool to walk around and see, DBS t-shirts, DBS jackets, DBS sweatpants. And that's how we always want it to be. You guys are providing such a huge value to us that we just want to make sure we're doing our part and making sure it's just as valuable for you guys.
100%. And another thing I will echo, to me, and this is something that I've always mentioned about, and, we'll hop into kind of the next month, but I'm curious of your thoughts. I've always said, the people who are supporting us now, I mean, again, let's be real. This is when we really need the support. If things continue to develop and, flourishing and everything, we're going to have 100,000 Discord. We're going to hit the 800K Discord limit. We're going to have hundreds of thousands of people who this model resonates with. And I just really want to point back to everyone who is supporting us for the first Kickstarter, supporting us for the first year. You guys all have specific roles and titles and tagged for this in the Discord, so we can keep basically a really good track of it. But, the support now, I mean, really, everyone here has shown us that it's possible. Now that we know it's possible, we just continue to push it forward. So in my opinion, the hard part's done, but you just want to talk about how, with any business, those people who are here from the beginning or any career or anything like that, those are the people that really, in my opinion, we're going to always take care of, just because, again, we make movies for our fans with our fans. This is why we're here.
Oh, of course. And I think that, you've heard me talk about it before. With each movie that we make, it's almost like scratching off a lottery ticket. You never know. All it takes is one person to see the movie, and all of a sudden we're on Netflix. All of a sudden we're HBO, Showtime. We have a big theatrical release. Our stuff is not that far off of getting to this spot, and that's a spot where you hit critical mass and your stuff blows up. So the people who are there now are almost like the early investors of a stock. I don't want to say Tesla, because Tesla's not doing too well right now, but you're putting in the ground floor, you're putting in the work, and we're building this pretty much like keg of dynamite. All it needs is a spark. And when I say a spark, that's like a good movie. And that's just on our side to get to the point where we could tell a good story and we could shoot a good story, and it just gets in the right hands. But a lot of that stuff it's really not up to us. It's just kind of, having the luck of the draw of all three of those things working out at the same time. But we're not like other movie studios where we release one movie every 3 years. Next year, we're going to have 4 to 5 shots at igniting this powder keg. And, the people who are in the ground floor, who are here first, will be rewarded the most as we scale and we grow. And, we do expect, the first couple of people that have been in Discord to help us out to funnel these new fans in. Because, I mean, imagine if we had something like Jenna Ortega's Wednesday, or just huge hit like that. That's thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people flocking in overnight to become part of this community. And they know, as far as I know, Netflix does not have a Discord community. They don't have individual communities. I don't think there's any filmmakers that have Discord communities. So I think that'll be kind of a groundbreaking thing where, okay, you can see our Instagram, you can see our TikTok posts, but you can even engage with us. And I think that's really next level.
Yep. So again, starting off where I think the most important part of this year has been growing and cultivating this community. We're going to continue to do that. So we're in July. The Murder House just released, and I will say, it was great seeing it kind of boost its way all the way up to number one on Amazon Prime new releases, getting the support of it. And also, it's just nice to have a new movie out there. Real quick, before we go into anything, how nice is it not to see Girl in Cabin 13 constantly over and over and over again when we release it and we're just kind of like going through it? It feels nice hitting that milestone, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to have a new movie out. With how many times I've seen Girl in Cabin 13, how many times I've seen Murder House, it's just nice to have a clean slate. And it's the fun part is marketing these things when they first come out, because we've had feedback from the Discord, we have had feedback from friends and family, but we've never had, feedback from people who are new to us, who have never seen our stuff before. And, all that feedback is really, really good, because it essentially allows me to be like, all right, what do people like? What do people not like? And then I can apply it to the next movies we do. But I think my favorite part is when it does release and I quickly, watch it on Amazon to make sure there's no issues. And once it's clean, that's like a weight off my shoulder. And then we can kind of sit back, and the last 3 months of pre-production, or not pre-production, but marketing work that we've done, I click a few buttons, turn on all that stuff. And then, you're refreshing the rankings on your phone. Like, I'm always looking at the Amazon hot new releases. It updates every 3 to 4 hours. We look at the Tubi rankings, because that is kind of how you understand, where you are in the system. And we always want to make sure that we're getting better. I think Murder House was peaked at 15 or 16 on the hot new releases. And, that is the goal for Forest of Death to beat. And I think it has a good shot. The Discord's bigger, our marketing's bigger, and I would really like a shot at cracking the top 10. I think that'd be a really cool and big milestone to be the top 10 hot new release on Amazon. Would be quite the accomplishment.
Massive accomplishment, and as all things, we celebrate together with that. So really appreciate all of the support. It's great having Murder House up there, but guess what? We are DBS Films. So what does that mean? We are going through the audition process. We had over, I want to say, between the backstage and between the Discord, we had over 7,000 auditions for this film. And I remember this has been very rare to have something like this, in the sense that I just remember kind of being like, this is the first time almost overwhelmed with different possibilities, whereas I think we were a lot limited with possibilities before that. Now, Backstage, which is the online casting site, which we use as well, but if you go through Backstage, you do not get direct feedback from us. Also, we know, hey, if you're from the Discord, you're going to work a lot, you're going to be more passionate on set. So those are the two big boosts that you are getting coming from the Discord. But with the Backstage one, they were running ads for us, we were getting all of this stuff. I just want to, this is one thing where filmmakers, you talk to other indie filmmakers, and what do they say? Oh, we need casting directors. Oh, what's this? Oh, I want to have these 1 stars or things like that. I mean, just with DBS Films, how it is, what do? We processed 7,000 auditions, and we made such an amazing selection to have our caster into the Forest 2.0. So you want to talk about that process, how it's changed from past years, because, hey, more the merrier, but then also how, this is just one of the not glamorized features of being an indie filmmaker, is literally managing lists and responses and callbacks and Zoom meetings. I personally must have devoted at least 90 hours to the audition if you add everything up between callbacks, first callbacks, all of those things. And this is just the process that, hey, you got to do.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I give casting directors so much respect, because this was absolutely wild process. I know when we opened up the Discord casting first, Kel had said we had, I think, close to 1,000. And just to give you an idea, for the Murder House, I think we had 400 auditions in total. So just through the Discord, we had almost twice as many auditions. And then obviously I used Backstage to fill in the gaps. And I think we had like an old actor, someone sent me a picture saying, hey, is this you guys? And it was an ad from Backstage. And I was like, well, what is this? Because I didn't run any ads for, the audition stuff. And I went on, and Backstage actually picked us up as a featured listing. So it was like featured Netflix movie. And then you got our little indie movie that's featured. But we had almost 6,000 auditions. just through backstage. And I remember it took me almost 2 weeks to just go through every single one of those auditions. It was an absolute massive undertaking. And I really think September was just about getting all these auditions squared away, and just doing callbacks. And it's very, very time consuming. So out of that 7,000, I think we got around 50 or 60 callbacks. And then you have to narrow that down to 10. And the second callback is just basically, talking a little bit more, trying to feel these people out to see if they're going to be a good fit, for the movie, because our DBS sets are a little bit different than something like Netflix. You're not going to get your own PA, everything's going to be run and gun where you move very, very quickly. So to feel these people out takes a lot of time. And like, you can't miss. You can't hire somebody who's going to show up on set and become an issue, because then we're going to be out all our money. If someone causes any kind of issue, we're not going to be able to finish the shoot. So it's my job to really, really push these guys and make sure that they are 100% on board with what we're doing. And we've never had any problems with any actors, but it's always in the back of my mind. I have to make sure that I'm not only getting the person for the right fit for this role, but I'm getting the right fit for this company, understands what we're trying to do, understands that we're learning, that we move very, very quickly. And, you'll have a lot of freedom with your lines, and that can be a lot of rope. You can hang yourself with that if you're not careful. So to do that, through 60 interviews is very daunting. And, at that point I was so sick of Zoom, but in the end, the Into the Forest actors were by far some of the best we've had all around. I was very, very happy with their entire performance.
It really was quite the monumental effort, but hey, making movies is hard, and that's just one of the processes. So really, that's going to bring us to September, which is getting ready for Into the Forest 2.0. We got through the casting, we got all of that taken care of. One of the big ones is we did have our very first Superfans event. Huge shout out to Aries, to Vin, and to Kaylee for coming out. We had about 20 some others, but we had a hurricane. So unfortunately, the hurricane canceled literally a ton of those ones there. But, really briefly, I do see one of the cool things with DBS films is the filmmaking in general, the process in general, the community in general. It gives us a real ability to have reasons to meet up in person versus just being an online virtual community. And I think things like the super fan events are going to be one of the bigger ones. I can see Halloween Horror Nights being a staple of that. So, we're already kind of talking about Vegas or different options there, but do you quickly want to talk about how, once we are up and running in the sense of having these and pushing this brand, we see the super fan events being almost, we could do premieres for our movies. You could just do a lot of fun things.
Yeah, I do think the community engagement and meetups is going to be a staple for DBS films. Not only is it the events and community meetups, but I do think at some point we could have like traveling showings for different movie theaters, depending on, super fan hotspots. I think it'd be really cool for us to just travel around a couple cities, rent out a couple movie theaters, everyone gets drinks and like a little red carpet premiere. I think would be really, really cool. And that's pretty much how musicians make their money these days is, they have concerts and they sell merch and they do a lot of cool events. And it's not even about the money, but just to have a live audience watching our movies, would be really cool. And I think it would just increase the brand. And, having theatrical releases does, have its benefits with as far as like Rotten Tomatoes and getting more reviews and getting more community outreach. We just have to be very careful because movie theaters are extremely expensive to rent out. But I do see that, being something that we could possibly do. And then it gets, instead of the super fans having to come to Florida and, do Florida events, it's almost like we can come to you guys. And I think that's something that we're going to explore. It may not happen in 2023 or maybe a slow rollout in 2023, but I do think that is a cool way to get indie movies back and get, people back in movie theaters. If you kind of make it this special event, because the community is just as involved in these movies as we are, I'd love nothing more than to roll out the red carpet and have everyone meet up for one night.
That'll be a super fun time. So I'm excited for that. And again, these are just things to come. So we're really excited for that. So now let's get into the meat and bones of filmmaking. We made another film. So this was our second film, October Into the Forest 2.0. If you guys want to hear about that, we do have a day-by-day breakdown. We have a lot of stuff for it. But I really think the coolest thing with this one was, you know, it was so easy. And again, I'm almost want to knock on wood again just to make sure it's there. But we really finally, between upgrading our skills, upgrading our understanding, the cast and crew, the pre-production, all of these things that we've leveled up in. I mean, that shoot was a breeze compared to Shapeshifter. We knew for different reasons. For instance, Shapeshifter is a much larger story, much more complex. Well, no, Force to Death. I need to start getting used to saying that. But the shade or the Into the Forest 2.0, we have done the concept before. All of these things are kind of looking towards it. And with that being said, we were able to go in there and execute. And again, I mean, the biggest takeaway I have from Into the Forest is it was just a very smooth set. It was very clean. We're taking a look at the rough draft now. In my opinion, it's already the best. I know you do this little thing where you waver until it comes out and then you agree it's the best, but all those things combined, I mean, how do you feel about that Into the Forest 2 shoot?
I mean, I was nervous because we had finished the last day and we had a huge chunk of time. And I didn't know what was going on. I kept feeling like we missed something. But we went through and we got everything we needed to do. And I think it was like what you mentioned, the combination of just we put a lot of pre-production into this one. The process was, much smoother. We understood how to run an efficient set. And I do think that no matter how that movie turned out, the production side of things really leveled up. And I look forward to, having that kind of consistency moving forward. Now, will all film shoots be that easy? No, but that was a much more relaxed set. It allowed me to focus more on direction with the actors as opposed to running and gunning and being like, hey, we just got to get this shot. As long as it's in focus, we're going to use it. And I think that allowed for a better product. This is the first one where I've seen the rough cut, and it is by far the best movie we've made, or at least by far the best one that we've seen in the first cut. So it felt different on set. I think everyone kind of gelled together. Everyone was all about the process, and just to be able to take the concept, have amazing actors work on it all the way through, and then be able to put it on a timeline and understand exactly what I want to do is a next level thing. Where I showed a family member the rough cut, which is just basically a pacing cut is how I want to do it, and obviously it's very rough. But as they're watching it and they're like, oh man, this is difficult, I can see, because I've done this so many times, how this movie is going to turn out. This is my marble, and we're going to spend the next 6 weeks chipping away at it. But it is in much better shape. There's not one scene in there where I'm like, oh man, I don't know how to do this. This could be a huge problem. I'm going to have to put a lot of time into figuring out. I know exactly how I'm going to cut this movie. And, I have everything I need to make a very good movie out of this. And I think the biggest problem with indie filmmakers is they don't have enough to get their movie across the finish line, or at least the movie that they wanted to make in their head.
It's exactly that. I mean, it really comes across where there's so much that ends up happening in the post-production part of this process. And it can be really painful for people in the sense of like, hey, this is what you're actually used to. This is what you're actually getting. This is what you had the whole time. And I think again, this comes from our experience. This comes from so many different things. Before you're able to go ahead and even get to this level, but being there really highlighted it to me and made it something where again, foundation, if we could have every shoot being like the Into the Forest 2.0, then I will be set in the sense of how good and straightforward that was. Again, it is found footage, so hey, that means a lot of different things. So we wrap up in October. Now we're going to head into the November, December. So we're basically catching up here. But the big things have basically been, I would say, just gearing up for the year. I know we did mention we potentially wanted to film another one in December, but you're blaming Dylan, as is acceptable for all things DBS and any issues that arise. We kind of have that script ready. I think to me, the big things is that we got Forest of Death is ready to go. And I mean, Into the Force 2.0, again, I think it's ready to go in like what 2-3 weeks, like unless we encounter something else that's not going to come up with. I mean, really, I mean, this is an off the podcast question potentially, but what, dude? It's found footage. What do you got left? It's ready to go. Just put it out there. So I think we did a lot of cleanup, I would say, at the end of the year, the last 2 months here. We kind of are getting things in a row. We're getting our ducks lined up. And the goal for next year, which again, we're going to talk about in our next 2 podcast episodes, believe, are we going to hold it to 4? Is that what the mindset is? But do you want to talk about how it's important to get through all of these processes as quick as possible? Because, again, editing is what's going to slow you down, and then how it's setting us up for next year.
Yeah, I think 2022 is just the year of like, it's very, very difficult to be in pre-production, production, and post-production at the same time. And that was what was going on with May and in October. And when you're in those, those mindsets and you have all these things pulling you and tugging you in different ways, it's very difficult because when you're working with quality control and they tell you have to fix something, you have to drop everything and fix it and give it back to them. And that means your whole day, which could have been, like your whole day could have been working on a script or working on pre-production or Zoom interviews. You have to scrap all that and give them what they need. Same thing with, as you get closer to actual production, then those hard deadlines will take over your time. That's the stuff you need to do, as opposed to, working on a script for the next one or editing the movie you had before. So when you're stuck in limbo like that, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to shift gears too. Pre-production is very difficult different than post-production. So like that stuff is very mentally draining, is physically draining, and I don't recommend it. But that's how we were stuck with, most of this year was in that phase. So moving forward, 2023, I really want to try and make sure, we get these things out, we get them off to quality control, and we start the next one. I would really like to shoot 5 movies next year, but I think we're going to land on 4. And that will double our production. And I think 4 is where you want to be. Do I think we do 5? Yes. And I'm going to try as hard as I can to get 5. It's aggressive. If we land on 4, I'll be super happy. And I think that is, what we're trying to go for.
My call is we sneak Roger in because we push it over, and then we get the last 5th one in December. And I think we're going to get 5. That's what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to keep pushing them. So again, I think the thing is it's never been more clear. That's kind of the bigger update here. With the last year, we know what we're doing. I mean, the Discord growth, 12,000 from 0, the YouTube growth, 8,000 from 0. You're just looking at all of the different handles, having a podcast, having all of these YouTube, having all this media. It starts to build and it starts to compound. So it really does become just such a massive asset that we're rolling into 2023 with. And we have more experience from making movies. More experience always makes you better. So I think we're in a really, really good place here. It's been, I think this 2022, I think will be the year that we point back to and be like, hey, at least we finally figured, it out to some degree, because this is not an easy industry. This is not an easy business by any means sense. So with that being said, are there any ways that you would say sum up 2022 in your opinion of what the year meant and what it means for DBS moving forward?
Well, like I said earlier, I think it's just the foundation. The foundation's laid. We've gotten reps. I understand how to do this process. I've been through multiple pre-production. I've been multiple production. I've been through multiple post-production. And I think a lot of skill that you learn in this industry is just don't repeat the same mistakes. Figure out what you did right, figure out what you did wrong, and the stuff that you did wrong, don't do it again. And I think that not a lot of filmmakers are able to ever get to that point because they're too slow. They only make one movie and then they get beat down. They call it quits. Where we have multiple reps and understand what works, what doesn't work, and we focus on what works. And we've gotten so good at avoiding mistakes that our processes are now getting streamlined. They're getting smoother, they're getting better, which allows us to scale up. And I think 2023 is going to be the year of scaling up. So this was the year of foundation, of still learning, of, removing some of these mistakes. But I think we're primed now to take this package, this movies, and the quality of movies that we can make with the Shapeshifter, with Into the Forest, and really try and make 4 or 5 of them. Are they going to be good? Are they going to be blockbusters? Are we going to get that spark on the keg? I don't know. But if we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, keep doing the right thing over and over and over again, I do like our chances to succeed.
1000% agree. And that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. In the next 2 episodes, we're actually going to talk about what we're expecting for 2023. So we're basically going to try and break down the type of movies we're looking for, the growth in the Discord. I'm going to force Brendan to make a few predictions. I'm going to make some predictions. So we'll kind of go from there. But again, be sure to take a look at our Discord channel online. Be sure to take a look at all the things we're doing. We make movies for our fans, with our fans. This was a pivotal year for us. This is going to be one of the episodes that I know I look back on 10, 15 years from now, when we're all pretentious and whatnot, from DBS films, doing all the DBS films things and going back and reviewing this. Because again, this was a massive year. Thanks to everyone who's been part of it. Thanks to the entire Discord community. Thanks to all of the friends that we met that I know we're going to have lifelong relationships with. So appreciate all of you. But until then, have a good one.